Namaskar, this is Firstpost and you're watching Vantage with me, Palki Sharma. Can a phone call revive the India-US trade negotiations? Prime Minister Narendra Modi and US President Donald Trump have spoken. It came minutes before the Prime Minister's 75th birthday, and it broke a long silence. Both leaders had been exchanging messages on social media, but neither had picked up the phone until now. It was Trump who made the first move, and it wasn't just a birthday greeting. It was a calculated outreach. This call may not change India-US ties overnight, but it could mark the beginning of a reset. We'll bring you the full story. A third power is watching these overtures closely, and that is China. Its economy is slowing down, but China's economic troubles go beyond the Trump tariffs. We'll discuss what is dragging down the dragon. Also on the show, after years of back and forth, the US and China finally have a TikTok deal. We'll bring you the details. How the UK is rolling out the red carpet for Donald Trump, how India and Russia teamed up for joint military drills, are Maoist insurgents in India ready to lay down arms? A surrender letter has surfaced. Israel and Syria, two sworn enemies, are discussing a security pact. And which soft skills can help you land a job in the age of AI? All this and more coming up. The headlines first. Thai forces fired rubber bullets and tear gas at Cambodian protesters. The standoff took place along their disputed border. Phnom Penh says more than 20 people have been injured in this incident. This threatens the fragile truce which the neighbors agreed to in July after 5 days of clashes that killed more than 40 people. The European Union proposes curbing trade ties with Israel and sanctioning its ministers. This would be the strongest action taken by the bloc against Israel over the Gaza war. But key member states like Germany and Italy have opposed the move. Israel has warned the EU that any sanctions will get an appropriate response. Colombia halts arms purchases from the US after Washington decertified Bogota as an anti-drugs ally for failing to halt cocaine trafficking. The US is Colombia's biggest military partner. The move comes amid a major drive by Donald Trump against Latin American drug cartels. Peru evacuates nearly 1,500 tourists from Machu Picchu, but around 1,000 more remain stranded due to protests. The demonstrators have blocked the railway tracks at the tourist hotspot. Machu Picchu is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, but in recent months it has been repeatedly hit by protests by the locals. And China's youth unemployment rate hit a record high in August since publication resumed under a revised calculation last year. In June 2023, the jobless rate among the youth had soared to more than 21%, after which the National Bureau of Statistics had paused its monthly publication.
Missed you a lot.
A birthday is a good chance to reset, to forget old fights and start afresh. Donald Trump seems to agree because late on Tuesday he dialed Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The call was not out of the blue. Both leaders were sharing messages on social media, but neither was picking up the phone and calling. Yesterday, Trump made the move. His call came just minutes before Prime Minister Modi's 75th birthday. It was a convenient excuse to dial him, but this call went beyond birthday wishes. It had the potential to reshape India-US ties. So how did it go? Look at Trump's message first. Just had a wonderful call with my friend Prime Minister Narendra Modi. I wished him a very happy birthday. He is doing a tremendous job. After that, Trump did something rare. He switched to the Prime Minister's first name. Let me quote from the rest of the message. Narendra, thank you for your support on ending the war between Russia and Ukraine. Using the first name is symbolic. Trump is highlighting his closeness with Prime Minister Modi. And how did the Prime Minister respond? Thank you, my friend President Trump, for your phone call and warm greetings. I'm also fully committed to taking the India-US comprehensive and global partnership to new heights. We support your initiatives towards a peaceful resolution of the Ukraine conflict. So both leaders mentioned Ukraine, but the biggest flashpoint was missing. And that is trade, no mention of trade. A team from the US was in India yesterday. It was led by trade negotiator Brendan Lynch. He held talks with officials from India's Commerce Ministry. Afterwards, New Delhi released a statement. It said the talks were positive. It said both sides agreed to intensify the effort. And the US was also upbeat. Washington, too, called yesterday's conversation positive. But will it lead to a deal? Will it remove the tariffs on Indian exports? As things stand, it's unlikely. India says these are not official trade agreement talks. These are informal discussions. Plus, the US is yet to budge on key issues. They want to sell genetically modified crops in India. They want to enter India's food crop market. Both of these demands are non-starters for New Delhi. Almost half of all Indians work in agriculture, and India is committed to protecting their interests. Same with dairy. Trump wants to sell milk and cheese products in India. Again, it's a sensitive industry over here. No government can open up the dairy sector for imports. If they do, voters will punish them. So these are very clear red lines for India. Unless Washington understands that, a deal will be tough. Also, India is not in a rush. Just look at the latest trade data. The tariffs have not upended India's exports. In fact, things have improved. In the month of August, the goods exports stood at $35 billion. That's more than 6% up from last year. As a result, the deficit has also narrowed. It was more than $27 billion in July. It shrank to $26 billion last month. It's marginal, but it's important. The government is also planning for the long term. We have 1.4 billion people at home. 1.4 billion people in India. The idea is to capitalize on that. Prime Minister Modi spoke about it today. He urged people to buy made in India products.
हम छोटी से छोटी चीज भी खरीदें, हम बच्चों के लिए खिलौने खरीदें, दिवाली की मूर्तियां खरीदें, घर को सजाने वाले सामान खरीदें, या मोबाइल, टीवी, फ्रिज जैसी कोई बड़ी चीजें खरीदें, हमें सबसे पहले देखना चाहिए कि क्या ये हमारे देश में बना है, क्या इसमें मेरे देशवासियों का पसीने की सुगंध है कि नहीं है। क्योंकि जब हम स्वदेशी खरीदते हैं तो हमारा पैसा देश में ही रहता है।
So India's trade has not taken a hit yet. The government is sticking to its red lines and the US is not budging. Then why have these talks at all? Because India believes in engagement. At no point did New Delhi walk away from the talks. At no point was the process abandoned. Even when Trump imposed his 50% tariffs, the talks were on. They were stalled, not abandoned. Which brings us back to Trump's outreach. What's his end goal here? What is he trying to do? There's clearly a change in approach. Trump tried to bully India at the negotiating table. That did not work. So he's changing his tactic. He's praising India and calling up Prime Minister Modi. More than a trade deal, he seems focused on Ukraine. Trump wants India to stop buying Russian oil. Again, India is not budging. Look at the crude exports in recent weeks. In the 16 days of September, India bought 1.73 million barrels per day. In August, the average was 1.66 million per day. In July, it was 1.59 million per day. So if anything, India is buying more Russian crude. Plus, Trump was not the only leader who wished Prime Minister Modi today. Russian President Putin also called him. And listen to what Prime Minister Modi said afterwards. I'm quoting from his statement. "We are committed to further strengthening our special and privileged strategic partnership." In other words, India won't abandon Russia. And these differences won't disappear overnight. You cannot sway India with birthday wishes or sweet talk. You need to make concessions. A good place to start will be the secondary tariffs. 25% of the levy is over India's deals with Russia. Perhaps removing that will signal goodwill. The Modi-Trump phone call has sparked cautious optimism, and China would be watching this closely because Trump's trade war is hurting China's economy. The economy is slowing down. The signals are everywhere. Factory output is down, spending is weak, the job market is fragile. This has put policymakers in Beijing under pressure. Again, look at the data from August. China's industrial output rose by 5.2% in the month of August. That's the lowest in 12 months. This means fewer goods are being produced. There's a slowdown in factories.
In August, the value-added output of large-scale industrial enterprises nationwide increased by 5.2% year-on-year and 0.37% month-on-month.
Now look at retail sales. They grew by 3.4%. This is the slowest since November 2024. What does this mean? It means that people in China are not spending as much. And when people do not spend, businesses suffer. This could have a chain reaction on jobs, which may have already begun. Unemployment is rising and wages are flat. In August, unemployment in China hit 5.3%, which is a 6-month high. Youth unemployment is close to 19%, which is another record high.
From January to August, the average surveyed unemployment rate in urban areas nationwide stood at 5.2%. In August, the surveyed unemployment rate in urban areas reached 5.3%, up 0.1 percentage points from the previous month and unchanged from the same month last year.
The impact of the trade war is showing. China's exports to the US have crashed. They fell by a whopping 33% in August. Remember, the US is the biggest market for China. In 2024, China exported goods worth over $500 billion, $500 billion in a year. So a 33% fall in that in 1 month is a big blow. Now, looking at the overall picture, China's economy is facing two problems. One is from the outside, the other is within. The first problem is, of course, Trump's trade war. The impact of the tariffs is showing. Chinese exporters are losing ground in the US, which is their biggest market. The second problem is China's internal slowdown. There's a deep property crisis. Consumer wealth has shrunk. Investor confidence is low and the job market looks uncertain. Chinese people are saving more, they're spending less. This is choking demand. And that is the bigger problem right now. The slowdown within China, that's more worrying, and the falling rate of consumption. And Beijing is trying to address it. They've launched subsidies. A few months back, China introduced a trade-in program. It rolled out big discounts on a range of products like appliances, EVs, electronics. 300 billion yuan was set aside for this. That's about $41 billion. So this is the first measure, subsidies. China is also focusing on tourism. They've introduced a 19-point plan to boost spending. It's adding more sporting events. It is extending museum hours. Tourist sites will be kept open for longer and visa rules are being relaxed to attract more visitors. China is also betting on the services sector. The private sector is being encouraged to enter areas like elderly care and health. But why the big bet on services? Because this services is an underperformer in China's economy. Right now, it makes up just 46% of household spending. And Chinese officials say that there's a lot of room for growth. Beijing is also trying to boost borrowing. It is offering people interest subsidies on some loans, like for personal spending and services businesses. Banks are offering cheaper debt. Again, the goal is to incentivize spending without burdening people with higher repayment rates or EMIs. The question is, will these measures be enough? Experts are not sure. Some say it's too little too late. They want to see more action on the policy front. They want more rate cuts. They want more stimulus. China's official target for growth this year is 5% growth target. But if the present trend continues, it will be tough to get there.
On TikTok. I've reached a deal with China.
It started as a silly little app. Teenagers lip-syncing to pop songs, awkward dance moves in cluttered bedrooms, pets in sunglasses grooving to trending audio. But TikTok did not remain silly for long. In just a few years, it transformed into a serious player. TikTok is now a cultural powerhouse, a political loudspeaker, and a geopolitical bargaining chip. The United States and China have spent years fighting over it. Trump tried to ban it. Washington tried to buy it. Beijing refused to let go. And after years of threats and warnings, a deal seems to have been finalized. A deal over who will own TikTok. And Trump, being Trump, rushed to announce it.
Well, we have a deal on TikTok. I've reached a deal with China. I'm going to speak to President Xi on Friday to confirm everything up. We made a very good trade deal, and I hope good for both countries, but a very different deal than they'd made in the past.
What companies are going to buy
We'll be announcing that. We have a group of very big companies that want to buy it.
So Trump says it's a good deal. He will talk to Chinese President Xi Jinping about it. You see, TikTok is owned by a company called ByteDance. It's a Chinese company. But the deal suggests that US operators will now be separate. They will be led, US operations of TikTok will be separate. They will be led by an American consortium. This will include the likes of Oracle, Silver Lake, and Andreessen Horowitz. They will have 80% ownership in the US, 80% ownership. The remaining minority stake, which is 20%, stays with ByteDance. The board, too, will be American majority. One seat will be appointed by the Trump administration. And I must add here, this deal is not final yet. Both governments still have to sign off. But this is the approved framework. And you may wonder, why is this happening? Why does the US want to own TikTok? Because of how powerful the platform has become. TikTok has 1.6 to 1.9 billion monthly users worldwide. 1.6 to 1.9 billion every month. In the US, it has around 170 million users, which is almost half the country. Nearly half of Americans under 30 years of age say that they get their news from TikTok. Trump has even credited the app for his election win.
And, you know, the kids wanted it so badly. I had parents calling me up. They don't want it for themselves. They want it for their kids. They say, if I don't get it done, they're in big trouble with their kids. And I think it's great. I hate to see value like that thrown out the window.
So on auto, auto executives...
And, you know, you're talking about tens of billions of dollars.
So TikTok is crucial for America. But it comes with a challenge, and that challenge is national security. TikTok gathers vast amounts of data. This includes your location, browsing habits, and contacts. And under Chinese law, ByteDance could be compelled to share that data with Beijing. So the algorithm can be weaponized, although TikTok insists that none of this has happened. But the US is not convinced. They want structural safeguards. In his first term, Donald Trump tried to force TikTok into a deal, but it collapsed. Then in 2024, the US Congress passed a bipartisan law.
Thank you.
It gave TikTok two options: divest from Chinese ownership or face a ban in the US. This year, Trump returned to office. He kept pushing for a deal. Beijing resisted. Then Trump threatened a complete shutdown, meaning ByteDance would have lost its most valuable overseas market. Tens of billions of dollars gone overnight. So the Chinese relented. But there is still a point of contention. The same algorithm. You see, the true star of TikTok is its recommendation engine. This is the For You feed. It's a machine learning algorithm. It predicts what you want to see next. And TikTok does it better than most apps. So much so that an average adult in the US spends 52 minutes on the app every day. 52 minutes, almost an hour. For teens, that number is far higher. They spend almost 90 minutes per day on this app. And this is the average. The US says the algorithm could be manipulated by Beijing. It could be used to shape American public opinion. And for Washington, that kind of influence is unacceptable. Their own apps, by the way, dictate rules across the globe. American apps, they gather data too. But for someone else to do it was perhaps too much for the Americans. So the US stance is simple. ByteDance must give up control. China obviously has a different take. The algorithm is a state-protected technology. Selling it would be like selling the crown jewel. At best, they will allow licensing of the algorithm to the US spin-off. In other words, the algorithm is the center of the custody battle. So what happens next? Well, Trump has given negotiators until December 16th this year. December 16, 2025, that's the deadline. They have to finalize the deal by then. If it goes through, TikTok will stay alive in the US. But it will be a split personality app. An American-controlled entity using a Chinese-licensed brain. If it collapses, TikTok could go dark if the deal collapses. But that's a nuclear option that neither side really wants. All eyes are now on Friday. That's when Trump speaks to Xi Jinping. TikTok may have started as just another app, but today it's a test case for who really controls the digital world. The world is confused about handling Donald Trump. Do you indulge him? Do you push back? Or do you get in line? In the UK, there is no such confusion, though. Prime Minister Keir Starmer has settled on a specific approach. Flattery. And not just any flattery. Flattery turned up to 11. As we speak, Donald Trump is in the UK. He's being hosted by King Charles for a state visit. And this is unprecedented because this is Trump's second time, his second state visit. He was hosted in 2018 by Queen Elizabeth. And now he's being hosted again, this time by King Charles. That's 2 state visits to the UK, something that no world leader has received. We'll tell you the logic behind this move, but first, the pictures. During state visits, London brings out their old relics, the royal family. It's all about giving the guest a slice of royalty, and that's what Trump got. He landed in the UK late last night, but his trip truly began this morning. Trump took a helicopter ride to the grounds of Windsor Castle. It's a residence of the British royal family, just about 40 kilometers from London. At the helipad, Trump was welcomed by Prince William and Princess Kate. Afterwards, they were joined by the King and Queen. Waiting nearby were 5 carriages, all steeped in history and ceremony. The first carriage carried Trump and King Charles. Behind them were First Lady Melania Trump and Queen Camilla. They rode through the grounds to the castle. Take a look at this. Full marks for flattery. I mean, just look at the scenes. Neatly cut lawns, gilded carriages, a royal procession, guards standing in perfect symmetry, all meant to make Donald Trump happy, to make him feel respected and celebrated. Once they arrived at Windsor, the national anthems were played. After that, Trump and the King inspected the Guard of Honor. So much pomp and ceremony. But all that was inside the palace grounds. Outside, it was a whole different world. Donald Trump is not that popular in the UK. London and Washington share one of the closest relations on the planet, but Trump has destabilized it. He imposed steep tariffs on British imports. His officials also attacked the UK's record on freedom of speech. The UK government may not mind that, at least not openly, but the British people, well, they have made their feelings clear. Look at what happened yesterday. Protesters projected these images on the walls of Windsor. They showed Trump and Jeffrey Epstein together.
Trump's relationship with the world's most famous hero, diplomats. Their friendship was back in 1992 when a few of them are found laughing. Trump and his cinema compared conversation with Epstein and became clips of Trump smiling and dancing with the people in the room, having
As you know, Jeffrey Epstein was a serial sex offender. Many years ago, he was also friends with Donald Trump. British protesters have zeroed in on that. Today, they drove around a van in Windsor. Once again, it had pictures of Trump and Epstein. Now let's come to the agenda. Tech cooperation is front and center. Both the US and the UK have agreed on a massive tech deal. It will bolster ties in emerging fields like artificial intelligence and quantum computing. As part of it, top US firms will invest $42 billion in the UK. It will be a game changer for the British economy. UK firms are also investing in the US. Pharma firm GSK has announced a big package. Nearly $30 billion, $30 billion to be invested in America. That's a lot of money going both ways. But beyond investments, what is London hoping for? Mainly three things. One, a full trade agreement. The US and the UK have already announced a mini deal, but London will be hoping for a comprehensive one, a deal that will be ratified by the US Congress and the US Parliament and the UK Parliament. Only such a deal will stand the test of time, not random handshake agreements. So that's one thing they're looking at. Number two, tariff relief, specifically on British steel and aluminium. Both exports face 25% tariffs in the US. The British industry is hoping for a complete removal, basically zero tariffs. That's what they want. And finally, number three, London will be hoping for political support. Hence this exercise in flattery. They're hoping to put Donald Trump in a good mood. They're hoping to charm him with royalty and then gain concessions. If we know it, I'm sure Donald Trump does too. He has probably seen through Keir Starmer's plan. We'll have to wait and see if the flattery works. A massive military drill has just ended in Europe. It was called Zapad. It was a joint drill between Russia and Belarus. It spanned forests, training grounds and seas. More than 100,000 troops took part, tanks rolled, fighter jets rode, and warships patrolled the Baltic and Barents Seas. But this year's Zapad was not just about Moscow and Minsk. India was there as well. A 65-member Indian contingent joined the military drills, not to take sides, but to train and learn, and to build cooperation and trust. And yet it carried enormous weight and symbolism. It showed India's ability to engage on its own terms. It reflected decades of defense ties with Russia, and it highlighted India's confidence in balancing partnerships. Our next report brings you the full picture.
Tanks on the move. Bombers in the sky, and thousands of troops spread across two countries. This was Zapad 2025. the joint strategic drill between Russia and Belarus. More than 100,000 military personnel reportedly took part. From the forests of Belarus to the training grounds in western Russia, the exercise spanned across 41 training areas. Armored vehicles rumbled. Warships patrolled the Baltic and Barents Seas. Nuclear-capable missiles were tested virtually, not live. The aim, according to Moscow, was to test its war readiness.
The aim of these drills is to rehearse all the necessary elements regarding the defense of sovereignty, territorial integrity and protection of the Union State, of Russia and Belarus, from any kind of aggression.
Amid this massive show of force, India also marked its presence. New Delhi sent a 65-member contingent to join the military drills. 57 from the Army, 7 from the Air Force, and 1 representing the Navy. The Indian Army Group was led by a battalion of the Kumaon Regiment. It is one of the most respected regiments in the Indian Armed Forces. India's Defense Ministry said the participation was designed to build cooperation and to strengthen the long-standing spirit of camaraderie between New Delhi and Moscow. The 5-day drills focused on joint company-level operations in open terrain. Indian troops took part in tactical drills, joint planning, and special arms skills. They trained alongside Russian and Belarusian forces, sharing experiences and expertise. But India was not the only foreign participant. Troops reportedly came from Iran, Bangladesh, Burkina Faso, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and Mali as well. Observers from at least 23 countries also attended. That included NATO members Turkey and Hungary. And for the first time since 2022, the United States. India's participation was steeped in history. For decades, the majority of India's defense inventory has been sourced from Russia. That partnership has survived the Cold War, the Ukraine conflict, and global political shifts. At the same time, India has also deepened ties with the United States, France, and Israel, among others. Exercising with Russia does not come at the expense of these partnerships. Instead, it demonstrates India's ability to engage all sides on equal footing. That approach ties directly into New Delhi's wider strategy. Strategic autonomy has been at the heart of Indian foreign policy since independence. Participation in Zapad is consistent with that tradition. And it highlights New Delhi's confidence in engaging with all its strategic partners in a multinational environment.
When we talk about India's security threats, what is it that comes to mind? Maybe Pakistan, maybe Pakistan-sponsored terror, maybe China. But what about internal threats? For decades, India has battled an enemy within. I'm talking about the Maoists, basically radical communist insurgents. Their mission is to overthrow the Indian state by using violence and propaganda. But maybe not for long. A letter written by Maoists has surfaced in the state of Chhattisgarh. And what does it say? That the group is willing to surrender, that they will lay down arms and begin talks. First, let me quote from the letter. In order to take forward the process of peace talks, we are making it clear that in view of the changed world and country's circumstances, as well as the requests made by the Prime Minister, Home Minister and senior police officers to give up arms and join the mainstream, we have decided to give up arms. The letter is also asking for time. The Maoists want 1 month. In this period, they will consult with their cadre. After that, they will start peace talks with the central government. That's what the letter proposes. And this is significant. The Maoist insurgency began in India in the late 1960s. Since the year 2000, it has killed 12,000 people. 12,000 people. Like I said, it's been a huge security threat. But is it finally coming to an end? Well, the security officials are a bit suspicious. They're studying the authenticity of the letter, this new letter. The first task is to ensure that it's genuine. The second task is to ascertain their motive. because similar offers have been made in the past, but they've not led to peace. This time, the ground situation has changed a lot, though. Let's look at the numbers. In 2013, in the year 2013, around 182 districts in India were affected by left-wing extremism. This was concentrated in central and eastern India. By 2018, this number came down to just 90 districts, 90. By 2021, it was 70 districts. By 2024, it was down to 38 districts. And now in 2025, India has just 18 districts affected by the Maoist insurgency. So clearly, their footprint has shrunk significantly. Left-wing violence has also dropped from 1,100 attacks in 2013 to under 600 attacks in 2023. That's a 48% drop in Maoist violence. Right now, we are in the final push. The government has set itself a target. They want to end Maoism by March 2026, by March next year. This year, a multi-agency operation was launched. It was called Operation Black Forest. Dozens of Maoist leaders were neutralized. A number of them were also forced to surrender. And the biggest win came in the month of May. That's when Maoist chief Basavaraju was killed. He was a legendary figure amongst Maoist sympathizers. He was also an expert in guerrilla tactics. Basavaraju's death was seen as a deadly blow, possibly a lethal one, to Maoists. And months later, this letter surfaces, an offer to end the fighting and surrender arms. So how exactly did we reach this stage? And can the Maoists be trusted? Well, the government's approach has been two-pronged. They have used military power wisely. A number of former Maoists were also deployed on the ground, and this gave the government an edge. At the same time, there was focus on development. You see, Maoists preyed on the poor. If the state was absent, they would step in. They would capitalize on the desperation and poverty. And the government has tried to correct this. It has offered financial inclusion in Maoist-affected areas. More than 1,000 bank branches, more than 900 ATMs, more than 5,000 post offices. Same with digital connectivity. More than 5,000 cell towers have been set up in these Maoist areas. The idea here is quite clear. Bring these people into the mainstream. Use connectivity to fight Maoist propaganda. Use financial inclusion to bring prosperity. And looks like it is working. Prime Minister Narendra Modi mentioned the anti-Maoist fight on Independence Day. He said the operations were in their last phase.
जो क्षेत्र कभी रेड कॉरिडोर के रूप में जाने जाते थे, वो आज विकास के ग्रीन कॉरिडोर बन रहे हैं। साथियों, हमारे लिए गर्व की बात है। भारत के नक्शे में जिन क्षेत्रों को लहूलुहान कर दिया गया था, लाल रंग से रंग दिया गया था, हमने वहां संविधान, कानून और विकास का तिरंगा फहरा दिया है।
Which brings us to the second question. Can the Maoists be trusted? Well, that's for the security experts to decide. People have been studying and fighting the Maoists for decades. I'm sure they will take a calculated decision. But here's what we will say. Surrender is the best option for everyone. If you fight till the end, you will lose. More importantly, many more people will die. Many more Indians will die. The government has always been open to their surrender. Let's hope the offer, if genuine, is taken up. Our next story takes us to West Asia, to one of the most tense borders in the world. The border between Israel and Syria. For decades, these two countries have lived as enemies. They fought wars in 1948, in 1967, and then again in 1973. They have traded strikes and accusations. And now they're sitting at the negotiating table, not to make peace, but to stop the next war. Israel has put forward a new security plan. It carves Syrian land into 3 zones. It bans Syrian tanks, artillery and warplanes near the Israeli border, and it keeps strategic Mount Hermon under Israeli control. And how has Syria responded? Well, they're drafting a counter-proposal, and the US is pressing for speed because President Donald Trump wants a breakthrough. He wants to announce it at the United Nations next week. But can two sworn enemies really redraw their border when trust itself is missing? Here's our report with more.
Two enemies, one border, 7 decades of conflict. And now, Israel and Syria are negotiating. Not for a peace treaty, but for a security pact. Tel Aviv has reportedly presented Damascus with a new security plan. It is Israel's response to the collapse of the old truce between the two neighbors. The proposal maps out land from southwest of Damascus to the Israeli frontier, and it divides that strip into 3 security zones. The closest zone would reportedly exclude Syrian tanks and artillery. Syrian warplanes would not be allowed to fly overhead. Only Syrian police and internal security forces could remain. The second zone would allegedly allow limited Syrian forces, and the third zone would reportedly permit heavier deployments, further from the border. Alongside the zones, Israel has reportedly made new demands. A no-fly zone across the entire strip from Damascus to the border, and an aerial corridor kept open for Israeli operations against Iran if required. At the same time, Israel insists on holding Mount Hermon. The summit overlooks both countries, and it is considered too strategic to give up. Israel says the design echoes its 1979 peace agreement with Egypt. Back then, Tel Aviv and Cairo divided the Sinai Desert into zones. Now the same formula is being put on the table for Damascus. In return, Israel promises a phased withdrawal. Its forces would pull back from areas occupied since December 2024, but the Mount Hermon position would remain permanent. Talks have moved between capitals. They began in Abu Dhabi. They continued in Baku. They resumed in Paris. And the next round is set for London. Around the table are 3 players: Israel, Syria, and the United States. Washington is pushing for progress. President Donald Trump wants to make it official before the UN General Assembly session next week. The aim is to announce a diplomatic breakthrough on the world stage. But behind closed doors, progress is slow. Syria is still drafting its counterproposal, and no breakthrough appears close. The urgency for the pact is linked to violence in Syria's south. In July, Sweda province witnessed brutal clashes between the Druze and Bedouin militias. Thousands of people were killed, including hundreds of civilians. Israel intervened with airstrikes. It said it was defending the Druze minority. A ceasefire followed, but tensions remain high. Those clashes came only months after Bashar al-Assad's fall. Israel responded by declaring the old truce defunct. Its troops advanced to within 20 kilometers of Damascus. Since then, the Netanyahu government has voiced hostility towards Syria's current government. Yet Washington has pressed both sides to keep talking. But one issue remains untouched. The Golan Heights, seized by Israel in 1967. Syria still claims it, and neither side has formally raised it in these talks. So what comes next is uncertain. The talks may draw new security lines, or they may collapse, leaving the old divisions intact. For Israel, this is about security. For Syria, it is about sovereignty. For both, it is a fragile peace gamble after decades of war.
Every generation has its bogeyman. For parents in the 90s, it was violent video games. In the 2000s, it was MySpace strangers. In the 2010s, it was endless screens. Today, it's something quieter and more intimate. An AI chatbot, one that answers every question that a kid asks. But sometimes it also whispers back things that you do not want a child to hear. Take the case of Adam Rain. He was a teenager who spent months talking to ChatGPT. It started with homework help, Then the bot became his confidant. Rain told the bot that he had suicidal thoughts, and the bot encouraged them. ChatGPT asked him to explore his feelings. And after months of such conversation, Rain died by suicide. He took his own life, and that put ChatGPT under the scanner. So now the app is changing. It will change the way it works for those under 18. ChatGPT says it will operate differently for teens. And how will it work? Well, OpenAI is building an age prediction system. It will flag users under 18. When in doubt, it will default to the teen version. For them, graphic content will be blocked. There will be no flirting, no suicide or self-harm chats. Plus, parents will get dashboards and alerts. They will even have the power to lock kids out. Although this is not the first of its kind rejig, Silicon Valley has an entire playbook for moments like these. Repackage the app, put a 4 kids label on it, and announce parental controls. Facebook did it with Messenger Kids. YouTube rolled out YouTube Kids, and now there is ChatGPT for teens. On paper, these apps are airtight, no ads, no creepy DMs, no dark rabbit holes, and parents get all the data. It sounds safe, it sounds like big tech has learned its lesson. Except it hasn't. The truth is, regulations are sprinting to catch up with teenagers. Age verification systems are notoriously easy to bypass. Sometimes it can be done with just a different email. Parental dashboards are underused because they're complicated. Sometimes parents don't even know that they exist. Some controls are so complex that kids end up teaching their parents how to set them up. And once they know the settings, they also know how to break them. And here's a part that big tech does not like to talk about. When it comes to tech, children are always one step ahead. They make Finstars, that's fake Instagrams for parents. This keeps the real accounts hidden. In fact, look at this report from the UK. It says 2 out of 3 children aged 8 to 11 already juggle multiple social media accounts. Children as young as 5 often have social media profiles, which is surprising because most platforms have a minimum age rule of 13. And this is not just about a handful of apps. This is about how the entire tech industry treats children as a PR problem to be managed, not as humans to be protected. Every time a tragedy strikes, big tech introduces new features. They sound responsible, but they don't fix the underlying problem. These platforms are designed for engagement, not for safety. They thrive on keeping young users hooked. So a 4Kids version is just another funnel into the same ecosystem, and governments too fail to pull them up. Laws are fragmented, many are often outdated and inconsistently enforced. Age checks can feel like surveillance, but they still fail at keeping kids out. So what's the solution? ChatGPT for teens may block certain words, Messenger Kids may restrict strangers, YouTube Kids may filter videos, but as long as the larger system rewards attention over safety, it is still a risk. Real safety is slower, harder, more inconvenient. It's regulation with teeth. It's design that puts well-being before profits. Until we get there, the illusion will keep breaking, and children like Adam will keep paying the price. What do you think counts as treason? Spying on your country? Conspiring with the enemy? Trying to overthrow the government? Well, if you're in North Korea, it could take much less. In the Hermit Kingdom, people get the death penalty for listening to K-pop. They're sent to labor camps for wearing skinny jeans, and it is treasonous to eat hot dogs. Not making that up. And now Pyongyang has gone a step further. It has declared war on even the names of foods like ice cream and hamburger. Here's a report.
Forget about the word ice cream, and don't even think about saying hamburgers. Oh, and karaoke night? That's officially off the table. No, these aren't the words of a helicopter parent overseeing a rowdy sleepover night. This is the new protocol of the reclusive nation, North Korea. Recently, Pyongyang launched its swanky beachside once-in-Kalma resort. Think white sand, turquoise waters, rows of pristine beachfront hotels and visitors, including some tourists from Russia. And where there are tourists, there are tour guides. But in typical North Korean fashion, this comes with a few quirks. For instance, the tour guides have been enrolled in a rigorous state-run training program. They are being told exactly what to say and what not to say, including words that are popularly used in the West and the neighboring South Korea. Tour guides have been told to give up the so-called bourgeois words. Now ice cream will be called Eskimo, because nothing says tasty dessert like a name that sparks an awkward history lesson. Meanwhile, hamburger will be the North Korean term for double bread with ground beef, mostly to kill the vibe and keep people away from junk food. Plus, karaoke machines are going to be called on-screen accompaniment machines, because when you're belting out your favorite tunes, who doesn't want to feel like they're working on an office appliance? This new protocol is part of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's war on foreign influence, which has claimed many victims in the past, including not just words, but entire foods themselves. For instance, Pyongyang has outlawed the beloved American hot dogs. People found eating, cooking, or selling them could be detained, or even sentenced to the country's labor camps. Even the South Korean dish, tteokbokki, and the Japanese sushi are considered treasonous. And in North Korea, it is not just about what you can't eat. It's also about what you can't wear. Like no short skirts, no high heels, and even though they're making a comeback, no skinny jeans. People aren't allowed to wear anything flashy. Even leather jackets are a big no-no, except for the leader himself. Pyongyang even regulates haircuts. So say goodbye to your teen rebellion streaks or post-breakup bangs. Speaking of, be careful about whomever you marry, because if you seek divorce, you will be sent to the labor camps. But do you know what else is banned in the country? iPhones, sports cars, and slangs. Foreign TV, movies, K-pop, and books in foreign languages. As bizarre as this is, know that things have been getting worse over the past few years. The North Korean government is increasingly implementing the death penalty. People are being subjected to more forced labor. And while North Korea already remains largely cut off from the rest of the world, Pyongyang has been increasing restrictions. At least 6 new laws have been introduced since 2015 that allow for the death penalty to be handed out for so-called crimes like watching and sharing foreign media. And while this happens, millions continue to live in poverty, with 3 meals a day reportedly seen as a luxury. But why focus on feeding people when you can tighten your leash on hot dogs and pull the plug on karaoke machines?
There is a saying that hard skills will get you an interview, but it is the soft skills that will get you the job. Let me explain what I'm talking about. Imagine 2 candidates interviewing for the same role at a high-profile company. Both of them have a strong pedigree, the same qualifications, the same technical skills, the same work experience. All the tangible abilities are the same. So how will you choose the better candidate? Common sense says you will look at the intangibles, in other words, the soft skills. The term soft skills essentially refers to abilities that extend beyond the technical. These skills are more nuanced, like behaviors that make someone a good team member or a strong leader. Stuff like effective communication, critical thinking, empathy, teamwork, even active listening. There is no definitive list, but soft skills are everything that help people do their job or live their life in an effective way. For instance, think of an economist. They may be very good at statistics and analysis, but if they are unable to convey the meaning of that data, it may not help the people it affects. Or think of a manager. They can have an MBA, they can have the technical know-how, but to understand their team's needs, they need critical thinking, they need empathy. So no matter your job, you need both hard skills and the lesser touted low-profile soft skills. And research proves this. Here's what studies say. 85% of jobs come from the soft skills. People with good soft skills are more likely to earn higher wages and learn specialized skills quicker. Soft skills determine how far up you can climb the career ladder. And most of all, they make workers more resilient, more adaptable. And this is crucial, especially today, where technology is moving rapidly. AI is reshaping the workforce. Specialized hard skills are rising and falling at a surprising speed. The job market is tough. At a time like this, soft skills matter more than ever. That said, The importance given to them is not really new. Companies have always rewarded soft skills, whether they acknowledge it or not. Before you get the job, you go through personality tests. You're asked questions like, are you a team player? And once you're in, soft skills are one of the criteria for promotions. Apart from improving your job prospects, they also help you in other ways, in your relationships, your hobbies, even your health. In fact, people with high emotional intelligence are less likely to experience stress and anxiety, which is why people are often pushed to cultivate these skills early on in their childhood. Students are not just graded on tests, but also on classroom interaction, on teamwork during projects. In fact, over the past few years, many governments have introduced programs focused on emotional and social skills. From India to Singapore, from Finland to the UK, soft skills are increasingly becoming a part of school curriculums. For some people, soft skills are innate. For others, developing them can be challenging. Because unlike gaining factual knowledge, honing people skills can be a lot of work. But it's not impossible. Experts suggest you start with empathy. Try to put yourself in other people's shoes. Secondly, focus on effective communication. It relies on your body language, your words, and your tone. That's the 3 V's: visual, vocal, verbal. Thirdly, don't be afraid to study others or to ask for help, because like all skills, soft skills can be learned and honed over time. And it is crucial that they are, because being clever is not enough. You need those intangible skills to set you apart and to shape your career and indeed your life. Every year in India, there's a national festival that does not involve fireworks, dancing or cricket. It's called filing your income tax returns. This year, the government stretched the celebration. The original deadline was July 31st. It was first extended to November 15th and then one more day to September 16th. That was yesterday. But the real drama was not in the calendar, it was on the portal. The official income tax website decided to celebrate by welcoming slower than dial-up internet in 1999. Sometimes it just did not open, other times it opened and then quietly froze. So naturally the internet had a field day. Take a look at this.
देखिए भाई साहब, हमको जो है अभी बहुत दिक्कत हो रहा है, दिक्कत से गुजरना पड़ रहा है।
And now it's time for Vantage Shots, images that tell the story. In Gaza, thousands of evacuation leaflets fill the skies. In Eastern Europe, French Rafales and Polish F-16 patrol the border. And in Mexico, a military parade marks the country's Independence Day. Finally, we are taking you back in history. On this day in 1978, the Camp David Accords were signed. It was the first ever Arab-Israeli treaty. It was brokered by the United States in 12 days of secret talks. The accords led to Egypt recognizing Israel the next year. We're leaving you on that note. Thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.